This season is finally here. No, it's not. I'm very, very late. Hello and welcome. I'm Liam, the music reviewer, and yes, it's gonna be the first video in this season that we're doing. Obviously we'll be doing the best songs, the best albums, best EPs, some other little miscellaneous lists as well. But we're gonna be starting off with what will essentially be a way of me being a bit negative, but also balancing that off with some wholesomeness, because that's my brand, and I'm the wholesome boy of YouTube. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about 5 albums that I thought were disappointing for one reason or another, and I'll interchangeably be talking about 5 albums that surprised me. So I don't really think there's much else I need to explain here, other than I guess not every album that disappointed me was necessarily bad, and the same with the surprise. Just because an album surprised me doesn't mean it was inherently great. I'll explain in more detail case by case. It'll be fun for me anyway, because worst lists aren't really my forte. I can't really pull off being angry. Some people they're very easy at doing it, but not me. But I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's just start off. Now here's one that I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking, and that is Post Malone's Beer Bongs and Bentleys, and that mostly comes down to the fact that when it came to Post Malone's previous output, with songs like White Iverson, that album just itself, Stoney, wasn't very good. It was great in at points. It was like the personification of irritating. He couldn't really sing to save himself. So when it came to the fact that Beer Bongs and Bentleys was coming out, we saw that really bad Yeezus-ish art going for it. My expectations were incredibly low, and my original review of this album isn't exactly favourable. That's the beauty of music reviewing. You put a video out and in about a month's time it becomes irrelevant, not only in the algorithm but just because your opinion's probably changed somewhat, but that's the fun of it. And yeah, I think that unlike Austin's Body Odor, this album's only got sweeter as time has gone on. Better Now is a pretty undeniable chart hit, and I think a bit of an anthem, and just as this natural sing-along essence to it, even if lyrically it's kind of all over the place in terms of like just what it's trying to pull off. But I think it's easy just to kind of sing along to it. Candy Paint is easily in the running for like the sweetest sounding braggadocious song of the year, probably bar none. But it's been one that I've came back to time and time again this year. I would not be surprised to see this appear on my songs of the year list, because it is just so just catchy and addictive. I really should have made some sort of like cavity sweetie metaphor there. I don't know why. Post singing for the most part, I think it's came a long way. Something like Paranoid feels like a pretty confident example of this. It gets the album off to a pretty satisfying start. That being said, like when it comes to most of these surprises, I'm not gonna just praise them till my lungs give out or anything like that. I do think that a chunk of this album just I don't care for, but considering how devoid of life that its previous material is, and just with how much fun I did have this record from time to time, I'd be foolish not to mention how this one got me off guard. Oh, this one's gonna make me look like a bad critic against all logic. I'm sorry guys, but this did very little for me, and I can definitely see why it's held in such high regard by people. There's this mood that it very rarely lulls me into, where when you just kind of ignore how it's all composed and whatnot, there's just this sort of like quote unquote vibe that just is really soothing, at the same time quite enthralling. I got that sometimes, and like I said, just because it's a disappointment, this doesn't mean it's inherently bad. I just think it's very I don't really see the hype about it, or well, not so much that. I see why people like it. I just think that the occasions where I'm getting that same reaction are extremely limited. Like maybe like a quarter of the time this album's getting that way for me. The sampling on this I think is really lackluster, and to put it lightly. That Kanye usage, that interpolation, it felt like it was being butchered, and not to say like, oh, because it sounded different meant it was bad. I just think it was extremely underwhelming. Kai Winston, he did some sampling of a Graduation era track, and even it sounded like almost unrecognizable, and it still worked really well. I just think that it sounded really lifeless on here, and that's the case with like a lot of this album. I just think it's really lifeless. I think that it just doesn't really, it never really got me in, never really dragged me in at all, and I didn't even feel like it was ever making much of an effort to do so. It might be kind of technically impressive to some people. It was recorded between 2012 and 2017, so I would have imagined that there'd be some sort of like evolution going on throughout the album, which doesn't really seem to happen. It just feels, I don't know, sometimes it just feels like an afterthought, and just personally didn't do much for me. I can also see why people are into it the way they are. It ain't gonna be an album of the year contender for me by a long shot. It seems like it might just be like trying to go against the grain here, or more specifically Fantano, but I promise you I'm not. But nothing to prove. I did not get the hate for this, and it's not just been a case of, oh, this album got hated, that's why it's a surprise. I genuinely like the first Little Boat album. Little Boat 2 was pretty bad, I'm not going to lie, though it did have a song or two that were decent. Teenage Emotions may simultaneously be the most overhated record that I've witnessed, as well as being one that justifies it a fair bit. But Nothing to Prove, oh my god, there's some just really good cuts on here that really kind of caught me off guard again, and that's a phrase I'm going to use quite a bit here, because I was going into it thinking that this is going to be like I think it's like 15 songs long, something around that, and it's just going to be like an album bomb, or just going to try and get as many streams as he can, just because he feels like it. But no, something like Falling in Love has this sort of like murky mood to it, where Yachty talking about romance actually kind of works well in his favour. I love the instrumentation on this as well. It just kind of gives me chills whenever I hear it. And the first half as well, the first half has more traditional kind of trap song, I guess you would call it, though. Get Dripped, that has Playboy Carti, it finally got me into liking Playboy Carti, so I need to give this album some props like that. But songs on the second half that I really like, almost like they can be almost sickeningly sweet, with how wholesome they can be some of the times. Anyway, I guess for some people this might make the album seem a bit sort of kind of jaded and a bit fragmented, but something like Worth It, Everything Good, Everything Right, Stone, is that what it is? Where one goes like that. I just find them really sweet, and they put a smile on my face, especially the finale song. Just puts me in a wonderful mood. Like I said with the Post Malone record, I do think that there's a chunk of this record that just doesn't do anything for me, but unlike that record, I don't think there's a song on here that I would consider bad at all. There's just some songs that just don't do much for me, but I never thought that anything was like offensively like horrible or that, which is an improvement on Lil Yachty's stuff prior to this release. And just in general, even if there wasn't this whole pretense going on, I still think is quite a solid hip hop album. So yeah, I guess that's the hill I'm gonna have to die on here. Not really surprised to see this one on here, and I'm not even going to bother talking about how divisive Kanye has been this year. And I say divisive, I'm pretty sure 3/4 of the general public were just kind of like, Kanye, what are you doing, mate? What are you doing? And sadly, that sort of leaked in to Ye, even though he went back and re-recorded a good chunk of it. A lot of the attitudes that just felt misinformed or grating or pompous are still evident on here. I think some stuff when it comes to talking about like the Me Too movement and that feel really self-centered, and just kind of infuriate me a little bit. Something like I thought about Killing You, and on like the concept of that, on paper, having Kanye talking about his bipolar disorder, which since then I think he said was actually a misdiagnosis, which I think in the long term might affect the sort of quality of this record. I don't really know. I'm not one to really say it at this point, because it could just be that he's saying this when really it isn't a misdiagnosis. I don't know. But even without that, I think just a general execution, I think it leaves a lot to be desired. I think it sort of meanders a little bit, and the beat switch payoff is just really lackluster, to say the least. And it's as if it's trying to like really impress you, but it really doesn't do that. I will mention that there are some songs on here that I think are so close to being kind of good. Ghost Town actually just all in all is a good track. I keep seeing folks say that Kid Cudi just sounds like he's about to fall asleep at any moment. I really like his contribution to this song, but other songs just feel like they're constantly at war with each other. All Mine, I guess, is trying to be this whole song about like a really sexually empowered song about kind of like owning somebody, which I just think of the whole rushed nature of this project doesn't feel like it's been kind of like done as well as it could. I think if Kanye sat on this a while and it wasn't trying to be part of this whole Wyoming experimentation, or that maybe it would have been just a more impressive project all in all. And yeah, it's just a shame that when it comes to this record, the person, the element that's bringing both the best and the good out of it, just happens to be the artist themselves, who just seems to this year been quite all over the place as well, and that's Kanye himself. I hope he feels better soon. I hope he starts to get the appropriate help, because it's not nice seeing the way that it's all kind of transpired and that. But I will say thank you for Kids Ecos. So I've did full reviews for most of these albums, I think, or at least mentioned them in roundup. So I'll link to all those videos down in the description if you want like more in-depth thoughts. And 1975 is probably a review that if you're subscribed to this channel you've probably seen, and yeah, I think I'm one of the few music critics on YouTube that actually liked it, and I don't think this is like a truly great record. I think it's just good, but when you think about it, when these singles like Give Yourself a Try, which lyrically I think is a little bit interesting, but that lead guitar line makes me want to throw up, and then To Time, I see people calling it a bop, and fair dude if you think that, but I just cannot see myself getting anything out of this that could be considered synonymous with that. But there are just some tracks here that really won me over and really made me think, you know what, I'm actually interested in seeing, or hearing anyway, future 1975 projects. So songs like How to Draw, which kind of draws from like Aphex Twin, Cyro era anyway, which I thought was pretty weird in the sense of like having this like pop rock outfit, try and draw from that. I thought it was kind of a bit weird, but it works pretty well. I Always Want to Die Sometimes is just really cheesy but delicious. It's Not Living If It's Not With You as well, I think, is just tremendously anthemic, a great like metaphor for addiction, and I think the way that works in lyrically kind of like builds on the foundations of the track Off from their last album, but also how the song itself is just as catchy. Love It If We Made It as well is just I just really dig how it's trying to like, it captures how as the song goes, how modernity has failed. I don't know how to pronounce that bloody word, but yeah, I think the way that it goes about doing that is pretty good, and I think that Matty just sounds really, really impassioned, and it just gives it this edge to it, not in an edgy way, but just like it could have been just kind of like but I think that just how into it he really is just pushes it forward. So yeah, I'm actually interested in like seeing where 1975 go next, which is something I wouldn't have really expect myself to ever say out loud, but it is what it is. It is what it is. So yeah, I'd say it's good, not pretty good, but good. So out of all the quote-unquote disappointments on this list, FM is probably the best disappointment in terms of the fact I do think it's a good release. I just think the fact that Big Fish Theory so happened to be my favourite release of 2017 meant that any sort of new Vince Staples project I was going to be hyped for. I was going to be there from the minute it dropped and being like analysing into it and listening to it like just time after time, and that's exactly what I did. And there's still some really good cuts on here that makes me hesitant to agree with some people who are saying that this is a very like traditional release. Something like Fun is kind of unlike I think it's unlike like 90% of hip hop, probably even more so. I'd probably go higher than that kind of like percentage wise. Same goes for Feels Like Summer, which is one of my favourite openers of the year. Those two songs are kind of head to head for my favourite cut on here. I just think that I don't know, I think that the concept is admirable, but just sort of doesn't really pay off as much as I'd like to. I think Vince himself is pretty impressive in terms of his his flows and what he's saying, but I really don't think that the production is often as impressive. And I don't mean to say that he's only ever good when he's being like pushing the envelope or anything like that. I just think that the small glimmers of that on this album kind of make me miss the fact that the majority of this project isn't doing it. I think a lot of the features maybe don't so much hold it back, but it just feels so vapid and unnecessary that I just wish they weren't there, and that Vince was just doing something on there. Like I say, there are some decent ones, like I said in my review, but I don't think that a good chunk of them are really needed at all. And yeah, why did they have that tiger? And I didn't know for the whole context of the concept. Like, yeah, if they have it there, but I skip it every time it comes on. I don't need it. I'm still looking forward to another Vince Staples project, especially if the next one is going to continue this trend of he does something a bit more kind of like laid back or a bit more sort of like expected, and then comes out with the experimental, and then, you know, just how that cycle continues and whatnot. So I hope that's what's going to end up happening. So I wouldn't even say that I'm now cautiously optimistic. You did good, Vince, but I really can't deny the fact that I was expecting something a bit more good. I'm good with words. Of course, expectations are going to play some role in you being disappointed or in you being surprised. It's obviously the latter here because, yeah, the green font kind of sells it. But Charlie Puth, I hated this guy, or maybe not so much hate this guy because that's such a strong word to use for somebody you don't even know, but I very much disliked his music prior to this. 9 Track Mind, I think, was the album. One of the worst things I'd ever heard when it came out in 2016. If you'd like time traveled and went there and said this guy's gonna drop not maybe a really good but a really solid pop record in 2 years' time, I would have laughed you out. But no, this is actually quite a fun time at points. I think there's this whole like 70s, 80s nostalgia that crops up a lot on it, and this happens with quite a few pop albums nowadays, but I feel like some people get a bit too heated about it, and sometimes you've kind of got to chill, because at the end of the day, as long as it's actually good, it doesn't matter if it's overly inspired, as long as it's actually doing something that is satisfying and isn't too overly reliant, then who cares? I think there's quite a few cuts on here that I'd like to kind of briefly mention. The Way I Am opens up things, and I love the whole kind of back and forth guitar line, the one that goes like I did that a bit too fast there, but you get the gist. Again, it shows off that Charlie can pull off a part love song, part kind of rebuttal to the media, and in a way that isn't too corny. I love how his kind of his voice sort of syncs up with the progression as well. But it was just like a really nice little touch, and you don't know how bitter, how gutted I was that Attention isn't gonna be gonna be a contestant for the songs of the year list, because it came out in late 2017. I was devastated by that, but yeah, the bass alone on here is just, if this was a food, it would be lasagna. It's that good. It's that good. It's not a great pop release, but it is a good one. I do think you could cut off a few tracks on here. I keep saying about every like sort of surprise, like you could just cut it down a little bit and it would be a little better, but it just happens to be the case of it. But yeah, this was probably one of my favourite surprises because of just how 9 Track Mind's like a 1 out of 10, like the lowest score possible. And this one, yeah, I just think is a great wee improvement. So before I go into why I don't like this album, just want to say that, yep, Praise the Lord is an absolute bop. Skepta just does tremendously on here. It's so much fun. That whole flip beat as well is just lovely, just really lovely. That being said, yeah, I was pretty disappointed by this record. I think it's probably the most disappointed I was by any album on here, just because prior to it, A$AP Rocky, just his production is always so lavish and stylish. It kind of feels like, even if there's some like obvious influences or comparisons, that when you hear an A$AP Rocky song, you know it's his. He makes it his own, and I think that's why people like him, is to the extent they do. I simply just like him. I don't think he's one of the best around at the moment, but I do think that in terms of a rapper with style, with charisma and whatnot, he's definitely up there in that sort of league table, as it were. But there's some stuff about this that really drags it down. One thing that isn't like absolutely huge in terms of what makes up this record, but something that still grates me anyway, is the Kodak Black apologism. I just think that Call Drops is just genuinely not a good song at all. And that would still be the case anyway, but when you take into consideration the fact that Kodak Black isn't a good guy, and I just think that ASAP Rocky trying to like sympathise with him just isn't doing much for me. I get that he's a pal, and some people just will look past the flaws of their pals to kind of like defend them in that. Like, I'm not going to try and act like that's not a thing that happens, but I just, yeah, it kind of grated me a lot. I think there's like 2 or 3 instances on here, including a whole bloody track that happens, and it annoys me. It really does. So I can't say that doesn't play a factor into why it disappoints me. But I think the experimenting that the title alludes to, and the thing that I've seen people praise it for, and I should have probably mentioned this in the intro, but like, if you guys like any of these disappointments, you should, like, you like what you like. There's probably plenty of albums that disappointed you this year that I probably ended up liking. But I think really just praise the Lord, the opener Distorted Records and the ASAP Forever remix are instances of, I wouldn't say experimenting, but ASAP Forever remix is just kind of like a really warped kind of Moby sample, which is good. I really dig it. I used to not be too big on it, but now again, I just has grown on me a fair bit. But I just don't think that anything sort of pays off. Nothing really goes past the point of just being merely serviceable. I'm still looking forward to our ASAP Rocky record. And I don't think this is a bomb of a record. Like I say, there are like highlights to it. I just hope that like Rocky just kind of builds on it in the future. I'm just going to skip this whole thing about, Robin, she just made a few good pop hits in the noughties, so I wasn't expecting it to be as surprising as. I'm going to throw that out because, yeah, this is just a great pop release in general as far as I'm concerned. I liked this album when it came out, when I did my roundup, I did say that I liked it a little bit, but now I genuinely like it quite a wee bit. I think I gave it like a 6 when it came out. I'd probably give it quite a strong 7 now, because oh man, Robin, along with a bunch of talented producers that she has on board, just have like an incredible knack for crafting these insanely like addictive songs that really bury underneath your skin and jolt right to your heart. Thanks to just Robin's undeniably lush pipes, like her singing abilities are just tremendous. Her charisma as well, and just the accompanying instrumentals just all go hand in hand and result in just some of the best pop tunes I've heard all of this year. Missing You was already a big favourite of mine when it came to doing this roundup, and Honey as a whole, in addition to Missing You, have grown on me just so much. Just each song has at least one taste element that just sticks to me like sticky sweet substance. I can't quite think of a comparison. Just give me a second. No. You're probably saying, because you're not saying anything, you're watching a video, you don't talk to yourself when you're watching a video. That's silly. This isn't Dora the Explorer. Humans wasn't quite the follow-up that anyone, including myself, was expecting, and even as someone that gets quite a little bit of Humans, it doesn't hold a candle up to what the band had put out previously. The thing with Humans is that at least it was trying. It felt like there was some ambition driving it. The extent to which it pulled that off is down to each individual, but when it came to the now, it just feels like a bit of a cop-out. There's no scope to it, which isn't inherently bad. Like, there's nothing bad about kind of like being kind of like level-headed. Not like Florida Misty did that this year. Like, God Favorite Customer wasn't anywhere near as ambitious in terms of its concept or whatever as Pure Comedy was, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. With the now it is, so because I've always thought Gorillaz were trying to be this big adventurous band that were just, their music was just as animated as their kind of cartoon kind of their members, but just isn't the case with now. Just there isn't really anything good about it, but there isn't really anything bad either. It's just such a meandering listen, such a soulless one. It has really kind of no character as far as I'm concerned. And it feels like it was rushed together, and I'm fairly sure that Damon and Co put this out just so they had music for the festival season. I'm fairly sure there was an interview where they kind of mentioned that, and that makes it all the more heartless for that. I'll put up an excerpt from an interview or whatever if that's the case. But if it's not, then sorry. But also, it kind of feels like that anyway. So even my speculation, I feel like it's somewhat warranted, because it just, I just hope that the Gorillaz just kind of go away for a year or two, kind of just, yeah, just sort of like take the time, make something with a bit more sort of like imagination, something just a bit more creative, adventurous, just something a bit better. Please, just don't disappoint me again. But yeah, these have been 5 disappointments and 5 surprises from 2018. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Hopefully you aren't too angry, though I'm sure you guys aren't going to get angry about my opinion. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys for the next video, which will be my top 15 EPs. Exciting. But yeah, I'll catch you guys then. Stay safe and stay hydrated.